criticisms of Israel right now is the violence, the quote-unquote violence that they're perpetuating against the Palestinians. You know, and it's commonly portrayed on CNN and such that it's, you know, just back and forth violence for violence for violence for violence, and that really if Israel would just stop attacking the Palestinians, that they would leave them alone.
Right.
What's the real truth in that?
Well, the fact is that, and again, I'm not there on a day-to-day basis, and I'm not trying to paint Israel as this absolutely perfect people, okay? I'm sure that they do things that are wrong, you know? And I'm sure that some of those soldiers go overboard. I'm sure that it happens because we're all humans and we have human nature. But as a whole, Israel attacks terrorists. They go in and they take out terrorists in terrorist organizations. They take out their cells. They take out their ammunition. They have strategic strikes on specific individuals and areas. And it is always with the terrorists. Unfortunately, what the terrorists do a lot of times is they surround themselves with women and children. If they're going to go to the fence to blow themselves up or to fight or to do anything, they surround themselves with women and children. So what you hear in the news is when Israel is going for a strategic strike against a terrorist cell, then there's innocent loss, casualties of war. And that's what's perpetrated. But the fact is Israel is always doing strikes not into the population, into the civilization, and not unwarranted. It's when it gets to be so much. So Israel is pressured. Take down these borders that you have. Take down these checkpoints. Let it be better for the Palestinians to have freedom to come in and go out of Israel and into the different territories. And so under pressure they do. And then what happens? You hear about a Jewish family that's raped and killed. You hear about a guy that blows himself up. You hear about this attack and that attack. Because whenever they because of public world pressure to lighten the security, they use it as the opportunity to kill, and then they tighten security again. And what makes the news? Not the reason for tightening the security, just the fact that security was tightened.
So in a similar way that President Obama verified the killing of Osama bin Laden, you know, we sent special forces in order to take out this lead terrorist of Al-Qaeda. He had women there that were defending him. Some of those were at least injured, if not killed, in the same way. So what the Israelis are doing are very similar.
Right.
They're trying to take out the terrorist organizations, but the terrorists defend themselves, like you said, with schools and such. And innocent people do end up getting killed, but you can't blame the Israelis for that.
Right. It's sort of like this school right here. The very last war that we heard about in the news was what was called Cast Lead. It was when so many constant barrage of missiles were going into Israel that Israel was going in to wipe out the infrastructure of Hamas and blow up all those bombs that they had that were going to be leveled on Israel. So what did the terrorists do? They came to a school like yours, and this is where they set up their camp. They didn't tell all the kids to go home. The kids stayed. And this is where they shot missiles and defended themselves from the Israeli army, is in a school full of kids in classrooms. So what made the news? By the way, Israel sent out millions of pamphlets that they dropped from planes and helicopters prior to the attack, telling all civilians to get out. They literally didn't do you know how when you're in a war and you can do a preemptive strike that nobody knows coming, you can be so much more successful? Well, it's true, you can be more successful. But Israel let everybody know they were going to do this so that they can warn the civilians to get to safety.
But the Palestinians used 7th graders like you guys as human shields, in other words, because they feel like if they leave the kids there, it'll be less likely that they'll be attacked or that their cache of weapons will be destroyed. Another thing is, Mr. Stein, today, September 25th, 2012, President Obama is getting ready to address the United Nations Assembly in New York, and tomorrow, September the 26th, which is what Jewish day on the Jewish calendar?
Yom Kippur.
It's Yom Kippur. President or Prime Minister Ahmadinejad, that of Iran, who has recently said again, restated that he will wipe Israel off the face of the earth. He's going to be addressing the United Nations.
And they're giving him voice. They're giving him voice. In the Holocaust, there's a saying, never again. Never again. Never again will we let a tyrant who spews evil and hate and talks about genocide openly, talks about a solution being to wipe an entire race of people, the Jews, off the face of the earth. Never again will we allow such a thing. And yet, Ahmadinejad over and over and over again from his country and from our country. He uses the podium to say that he will wipe Israel off the face of the earth. The Zionists are Satan, they're a cancer, they need to be removed. And we're giving him voice. We're not only not allowing him to go through with developing nuclear weapons, we are giving him a podium to speak from in our land.
We got 2 minutes. Anybody have any questions? Chloe, this morning.
What do you think is behind this hatred for the Jews?
That's a great question. Prior to the Messiah coming, we saw where the Egyptians tried to wipe out the Jews. We saw where Haman tried to wipe out the Jews. We saw where all these different people groups tried to kill the Jews. And it's because God came to Abraham, and God called Abraham to be the first Jew, the chosen people, and that through his seed, Messiah would come, who would save the world. So the enemy, Satan himself, has tried to wipe out the Jewish race to keep the Messiah from ever having been born. Now we believe through history and scripture, and it's undeniable especially if you just look through prophetic teachings, that Jesus was that Messiah. And so now, if the Messiah has been born and Satan lost, then why still kill the Jews? The Bible also says that until the Jews recognize that Jesus was the Messiah, until the Jews say, Baruch haba